right, everybody, welcome to a special Nerdery and Murdery on a Tuesday night. Hopefully, I'm going to have this out Tuesday night, but we're doing something a little different tonight. Um, for those of you who have listened to the show, you already know that Zig can go deep on a topic, and I mean deep on a topic. Well, now he's gone and written an entire world. We've talked about this before. He has a book that was released today. His new book, the Firesign, an Elvish War Chronicle, just came out. And so
If
instead
you
of our
buy it soon, it'll be an Elvish War Chronicle.
Chronicle, he did do it wrong, but we'll kind of get into that. But yeah, instead of our normal show, I'm gonna flip the script, and he's gonna be in the hot seat, because we're gonna talk about where this came from, what went into building it, and what readers can expect stepping into his world. So today, Nerdery gets to be about Zig. So let's get into it. Zig, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, sir. This is
I,
weird.
I'm so proud of you, though. You've been working on this for so long. I think the last draft I looked at was back in about January. I think it's been that long since I looked at it was the last draft. And one of the things I told Zig, I said, you know what? Don't do anymore. Get it out there. Just go. You because one of the things you can do as an author is you can keep going and keep going and keep going, and edits can just go and go and go. At some point, you've got to decide, I'm going to get this out. A friend of the show's told me before Prime Numbers came out that everybody's first published book is messy. It's hard, it's difficult, and you learn so much along the way. And so that's when I gave Zig the advice: just go, just get it out there. Um, so tonight I'm going to be interviewing Zig on this. I hope you get out and check the book out. I think it's very good. I enjoyed it, every iteration I've read of it.
You got them all,
I
too.
did I did get them all. I read through all of them. Um, and it's not normally my bag. I don't read a lot of high fantasy. I'm not a big fan of Lord of the Rings. I've talked about that. Definitely not the movie. I wasn't a big fan of it. I thought they droned on too long. I've got mad respect for it, but it's just not my genre. But Zig made this very well done. It's very intriguing. It's very engaging. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it, and we'll talk about this as we go along. But as I said, I'm really going to kind of put Zig on the hot seat with this, and just kind of start out. What made you decide to write this story?
Well, I mean, I've had an idea for a couple of fantasy stories kicking around in my head for decades. Um, I wanted something. I wanted something like a Lord of the Rings light. Like there was a series of novels by Dennis McKiernan back in the early 90s called the Iron Tower trilogy. He basically retold Lord of the Rings, but in a simpler format, an easier to read format, basically. And I kind of wanted to do something like that. I want it to be light and fun and an adventure story that is not as daunting as Lord of the Rings is to read because it's hard to get through. It's
Mm-hmm.
thick. It's worth it, but you know, I always recommend if somebody's, I don't know about Lord of the Rings, it seems like it's really thick. I always tell them start with the Iron Tower trilogy by Dennis McKiernan. And if you like that, you will love the Lord of the Rings. But it's like an introduction. That's kind of what I wanted this to be, like a fantasy introduction novel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also didn't want to copy Lord of the Rings. There's certain tropes that bother me. Dwarves don't always live in caves. In my case, my dwarves live on a steampunk version of Chicago with these bridges that cross the city and stuff. And one of the Elvis tribes is basically based on well, you can see the in the picture behind us if you're looking. It's based on Tenochtitlan and Culiacan and some other um, Mesoamerican cities because I think their architecture is beautiful, as well as some of their languages and some of the words that I use are like I think the Elvish city, of the water tribe, the Quatil is Xochitl, which is the Nahuatl or Aztec word, Mexica word for flower, because it's a flower. Um, but it's covered in flowers, and of course, there's also some Venice thrown in there. I kind of wanted to explore some different areas, in a roundabout way, answering that. Did I answer that
Yeah.
question?
No, 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 no. So, I went through the very similar myself. And so it really kind of the question I had tailing off on that because you talked about the years it was in your head. You had a couple of fantasy story ideas in your head. Was there a specific moment when you said, "Yeah, I'm doing this"?
Well, yeah, I know three people who publish novels now, and it's like, what? How? But so yeah, I was like, yeah, I can do this. If they can do this, not to say that you're, less than or anything. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
because that comes
if you
across a little
can do
bad.
this, I can do this.
Yeah, that came across not good at all.
No, I know. There's no way to say it, but that was the thought in my head. Is like, well, if Jeff can do it, I can do it. If if Mike can do it, I can do it. If Steven can do it, I can do it. They're not they're not that much smarter than I am. I can do this, and I already have an idea.
Wow, you're not coming across well on
No,
any
I
of
am
that.
not coming
On
across well.
any
I
of
love
that.
you guys.
You are not coming across
But
well
you
on any
understand
of
my
that.
meaning, right? What I'm trying to say.
No.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
it's look, you guys were able to do it. Why not give it a try myself? Maybe that's a better way to say it.
right. So, and that's where I was on this because I had been trying to write for so long myself, and I kept writing and putting it aside and writing and putting it aside. And what Zig's trying to get across there is exactly right. When Mike Shanks and Stephen Boster were two geeks and a microphone, when they
Two geeks.
did theirs, um, I finally decided. I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm tired of fooling around with this, and I forced myself to get into it, and I did a lot of writing between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Um, because I don't sleep. Um, and that's so I think that's where Zig was kind of trying to get around that he personally knew some people who had really just dug down and got into it, and he thought, you know what, I need to do that too. I think
I
that's
can do
what
this.
you were trying to say.
Yeah, I was like, hey, if they can do this, I can do this. This is not. Hey, wait, why is it so daunting? How hard can it be?
Hard.
It's exceedingly hard.
Yes.
It it took me like a year. What, well, like a year to write this? About right?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you for sure. I'd been buried in my own stuff, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's been like a year. It took me like a year to get it out. And I still
It
had a typo at the beginning. So if you buy it quickly, it is the Elvish War
Chronicle,
Chronicles,
Chronicle.
Chronicle, but it's supposed to be the Elvish War Chronicle because dyslexia. And it just happens, man. Sorry.
Writing is not easy. It's not. Getting your words onto paper and getting the idea put across is not easy in any way, shape, or form. Getting to publish is not easy in any way, shape, or form because you can only personally edit it so many times when you're numb to it. You're numb to what's potentially uh I'm saying wrong, but not necessarily wrong, but needs to be refined. What
Well,
needs to be changed to make
the
sense?
the my problem has always been I know how the story's supposed to play out. I can
Hmm.
see it in my
Hmm.
head. My
Hmm.
problem is relaying that to people. And I
Right.
think I think what we've been doing the last 5 years with Nerdy and Murdery has helped a lot because I've been able to refine those thoughts. But well, not necessarily refine the thoughts. The thoughts are the same, but I can speak to them better than I could before, than I could 5 years ago, if
Well,
that makes sense.
yeah, and what you said is actually very, very true. The stories in my books, I know what the story is supposed to be. I know the progression. I know where the end is going to be. But I needed somebody else to read it to tell me, did the progression make sense? Did they understand everything I was trying to put into that? And that's where I get to. You really kind of become numb to your own story because you hear it in your head, you see it in your head, and you see it on the paper, and it all makes sense to you. But then take it to someone who doesn't know the story, and they may go, okay, I'm
How
not
did they get
connecting the
here?
dots here. How did they
Yeah.
get here? What
How did they get
happened
here?
here? Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's what makes it very hard. Um, but for this book itself, why did you build this type of world? I mean, you've got your elves, your orcs, your dwarfs, but you did it in a kind of political war setting.
Um, well, I mean, it plays out the way that the world plays out. Um, uh, People with lust for power have a tendency to fuck with people who don't. That's basically what the story is. These There was this horrible war thousands of years ago for these people, and they've decided that they're not going to have war anymore. They're just not going to do it. Um, the orcs and stuff will stage mock battles so they can get the fighting out of them. So they're very good, great marshaling culture, but it's all practice, right? It's not no one wants to fight anymore. And these people with this lust for power have decided, no, we're going to attain power and we're going to fuck with the people who are just trying to get on and be themselves. And that's happened the world over for thousands of years. I just basically showed that.
Well, and what you're describing, the world itself, the world itself is very layered. Different
Yeah.
tribes,
Well,
politics, history.
and it was almost completely wiped out. I allude to it, but I never say it matter of factly. It was a wasteland at the end of the Dark Wave. Matter of fact, the Bati don't even use the full force of the Dark Wave. I'll get to that at some point. Because it's like a nuclear bomb. It's the equivalent of a weapon of mass destruction, and
Hmm.
it nearly destroyed this valley. Because this is one confined valley. I'm going to explore this world a little bit more, but I got to get away from it for a while. I've got some other ideas I want to start working on.
Well,
But
and
yeah,
uh, I mean, but when I'm talking about the various layers in the book, you've got different tribes, politics, history. W- When you start writing it, where did you even decide where to start with all these layers that are intertwined?
well, so I basically started with the story of an elf on a horse, a lady elf on a horse. She's writing because she saw something she wasn't supposed to see. And it's like, well, why is she on a horse? Well, she's on a horse because her people are are riders. Um, and she's really good because she didn't start out as a rider. She started out as someone in the forest. And it just kind of built on the layers there. Um, like the dwarves, they're like four, five different tribes, four different tribes of orcs. I I have a cheat sheet. I put it in the front of the book. So if you need a cheat sheet, there's a cast of characters and tribal affiliations. Like the dwarves, I was like, well, I don't want them to all live in like, cities inside of mountains because that's been done to death. I want to put them on, like like a steampunk version of Chicago. Um, so, but but they're different. They're different. There were different groups of dwarves that basically came together and built the city after the fall, after the Dark Wave, the Pact of Ashes. So, I had to come up with, okay, so there's what, four tribes of dwarves, and some of them used to be boat people, but now they do other stuff, and some of them used to be forgers, and now they do other stuff. Some of them used to be architects and farmers, now they do different stuff. Um, and it just layered from there. And I think the groups of tribes that are the least fleshed out are the orcs, because there's three tribes of orcs. Um, One has been enslaved, so they're basically an entire slave class of orcs. They were enslaved by the bad guys, the people who are the lust for power. Everybody actually thinks they're gone. They think they got wiped out in the Dark Wave. But in truth, they've been enslaved for thousands of years. But the other two tribes, the Mogzu and the Grash, or the Mogzu and the Grash, um, they are basically a lot alike. I centered one more Norse-ish or Scandinavian, and one is a little more German. But those two civilizations spring from the same well, so I wanted them to be a little more alike. Um, so and the Grava have been enslaved, so that affects everything in their society. So they're not, they don't really have a society because they're enslaved. So they're basically fighting to get free for generation upon generation. And I also wanted to bring something a little more fantastical. So I didn't put any dragons or anything in this, but there are the Myconoid people, the Kar-Ah. Um, they live in underground cities and they're basically mushroom people. But I thought, okay, so they're mushrooms. So what is it about mushrooms? So if it was a living, breathing mushroom, it wouldn't be male or female because it would spread by spores. So they're always um like they're always they them, because there'll never be a he or she because they don't have that, because they spread by spores. Um so I thought, well, that's important, because you would deal with a car odd differently because they are completely gender neutral, because they just don't have genders. They don't need them because they're mushroom people. Um, so how you deal with them needed to be different. So I basically just built this like a layer cake, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then I was like, well, okay, it is a fantasy novel. I gotta have a drawing of the route that the people took. So I went on to like a little D&D website where you could build your own maps, and basically made a little map, and that's what I was using just so I could keep it straight in my head, and I ended up putting that in the book. It's kind of cute, but it's basic, but that's okay, because basically you're just getting a feel of where the stuff is in space.
Oh,
Um, and then I had to go down to, there had to be a point where this begins. So it starts with the Pact of Ashes. So there was this,
so and that was actually my next question before you get there, because that is my very next question, because the history and tension start right at the beginning. So when you talk about the Pact of Ashes, how important was that idea in shaping everything else?
um, well, again, the starting point was the the Elvish warrior woman on a horse, a Kieran, because they don't use horses, they use Kieran. They're like horses, but they're different. Um, Kieran being a Gaelic word for horse. but um but yeah, so it was like, well, okay, so something had to have happened before to make these people very anti-war. So what would make people anti-war? Oh, a cataclysmic war would do that. So I had to start with the Pact of Ashes. Then I had to set it in the remote past. Um, I don't know if I regret setting it that far back. Maybe I should have set it for a few hundred years, but this is also a rebuilt society. They completely rebuilt their society because almost everything was wiped out. So I was like, well, I gotta set it far enough back where that's a they had the ability to build these cities and things. So I did it with 8,000 years, and I came across that idea of 8,000 years originally because I was reading an article about the human beings had a population bottleneck where we were like less than 1,000 people on the planet, and in like 8 to 10,000 years, there were hundreds of thousands of us. So I was like, well, okay, well, I guess that's a good number. So that's why I picked that particular number. Um, and there had to have been a starting point for these people to, basically agree to all live together because I don't really say it in the novel, but in the war with the Bati, these people fought each other. Not everybody was on the side. I allude to it a little bit. Like the Quatil weren't really allied with the Bati, but they had a trade arrangement, which is why they know how to get into the ruins of the old city. Um, because they stayed out of it, but they stayed out of it because they buddied up to the Bati. The Bati being the Elvish tribe that has a lust for power.
Well, so
Did
so
man, I danced all around that. Did I actually answer that question?
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
As you were writing it, because there's honestly there's so much depth here. As you were writing it, did anything in the world evolve or change while you were writing? And you're like, no, this doesn't make sense, and I've got to change this. I've got to evolve this.
Yes, I knew I was going to kill some main characters off just because I wanted that tension, but I wasn't sure which main characters I was going to kill off. I started out killing some different characters off, and I'm like, no, I want to this, like Ibida drop here. Ibida drop here. Make sure I got that right. Ibida drop here. Ibida of the drop here, because the whatever tribe you are, that's your last name. Because again, you started out with a small group of people, so. But I was gonna kill her off originally. I was gonna be tragic, but it's like no, no, because Ibida is the person that the audience is traveling with because again, she's on a horse. Her people move, they travel. So it's a travel story because again, it's a fantasy novel. You try to get away from the Lord of the Rings, but essentially, Tolkien set that idea up. Fantasy stories are traveling stories.
Is that why you started with Ibida?
Yeah, that's why Ibida is first because it's a fantasy novel and she is a traveler.
Hmm.
Um, all of her people are even the ones that live in the woods. They don't live in permanent structures. Uh, well, until near the end of the book.
Well, do you have a favorite faction or group in the book?
I have some favorite characters. Um, uh, I like Thurn Velgren. He's a dwarf. He owns a boat. He's fun. I like I like shopkeeper Kitalgash Kaldrega. Her name means shopkeeper. I even say it in the book because um there's this one dwarf character, Brandon A, that everyone knows. That's kind of a joke. It's like, oh hey, that's the dude that everybody knows. But like he's real friendly and but he's known this chick for a long time and he just calls her shopkeeper. And in the book it's like, I don't even know your real name. It's like my real name is Shopkeeper. It's just in an older language. She's fun. I like I like Tlaquatil. Tlaquatil is badass. She's a masking shaman of Xochitl, of the Quatil elves, and she uh she has a thing for old Thurn Velgrim. Matter of fact, she basically tells him they're getting married, and he's like, okay. Um, she's a lot of fun. Um, I liked the idea of the high elvish cities, like the Galadriel type elves, um, are corruptible
Hmm.
because you
Hmm.
never see that in fantasy. So I was like, well, like the dwarves living in a city across the river, living in steampunk Chicago. You never see that in fantasy, so why not do that? That sounds interesting. So that was fun. I like the I like the orcs a lot. And they're not Tolkien orcs. They're more like a I guess a modern D&D half orc is basically what you're looking at.
Well, so okay. Oh, overall, when you look at the book overall, is the book really more about the war or the people inside of it?
Um, well, I mean, um, it's got to be about the people inside of it, but all wars are about people. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Somewhat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if Ibada hadn't have been where she was, the plan of the Bati would have probably gone on another century, and this war probably wouldn't have happened. They would have sowed seeds of destruction, and it would have taken, the different factions wanting to fight each other, and that's when the Bati were going to spring their trap. Because it was a it was a red flag operation. That's what, um, and it was a test of some of their weapons. But that's what Ibadah stumbled across, and nobody knew she saw it. So she heads to Tamriel de Tashai, um, because that's where the council is. That's where the council is. Because they set a council up after the Pact of Ashes. We're never going to fight wars again, and if there's problems, everybody comes here. We hash it out. We figure it out. Everybody comes to an agreement. Everybody's happy. Um, so she basically is going to the UN to go, hey, I just saw this and it's weird because you know, there's this kind of dwarf and this kind of elf, and they were speaking weird languages, but they were using weird weapons. What the hell's going on? Someone needs to know about this. And that's the beginning of the story.
Hmm.
Basically, the group or the adventurers, the party, uh, they are sent there by the council to go see what the fuck is going on. Because when it comes up, it's like nobody sent an army to attack a small orcish village. Why would we do that? So, had she not have seen that, it would have just looked like there was an attack. So the whole idea was the Bati were trying to sow disunity, and they were going to use that as a pretext on their attack. And they've been working on this plan for a long time. Um, they bought people off. They've replaced people with Bati that look just like regular they look like dwarves, or they look like um, um, Tamarack elves, or they look like Taigellan elves, or they look like orcs, but they're not. They're Bati. They're just mimicking people. Um, so you really don't know what's going on until they get to the underground city.
Hmm.
I wanted to I wanted to keep that away. I always knew, and I don't want to give too much of the book away. I always knew that the one character who forms a betrayal was always going to betray them. Even though he looked kind of heroic. He looked like an asshole, but he was always heroic. Um, I knew he was going to betray them, and I knew that's how I could introduce the Kara character. Um, so that also kind of helped me build the world a little bit, because I knew those two facts, and so that helped me build the world of separating out. Because originally there weren't as many tribes, there were less of them, but I thought, oh, that's not going to work, because if I'm reading a fantasy novel, it's like there's only one tribe of this and one tribe of that. No, 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 it's going to be different people because it's been 8,000 years, you know. And I'm thinking there were probably other tribes too. They just got forgotten about.
Well, I'll kind of pivot away from that a little bit because we're diving very close into Zig's passion of this. He's about to give away spoilers. I can just feel it. I've known him long enough. He's about to give shit away.
Yeah, I'm about to give some
Um,
shit away.
and I don't want to do that. So let me pivot this a little bit. What was the hardest part about writing the book?
Getting past the first draft. Getting past the first draft. I was able to get it all down, get the first draft out, and I'm reading it and I'm like, this is not that interesting. I need to rewrite this in a way that's interesting. I need to put more adjectives in this. And that was it. Once I got past getting the original idea was down easy. Getting that into a first draft, that was fairly easy. It was getting from the first draft to the second draft. That was the hardest part.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then I think once I got past that, it was smooth sailing. It just took me some time going back and double checking. Um,
Well,
Luckily, I have good spell check.
what about writing it surprised you the most?
Um, that it was easier than I thought it was going to be.
You're going to have to define that a little bit more for me.
Okay, I'm a big reader, and I have been since I was a kid. Um, and I always thought that writers were some type of I don't know, demigods.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um,
Sure, you put the writers that you're most familiar with and that you love reading up on a pedestal. I've done it
yeah,
myself because I sit there. There's no way I can compare myself to Stephen King, C.S. Lewis, Robert Heinlein, um, Ernst Klein, Orson Scott Card. Those are all writers. I had Clive Barker, that I have a lot of admiration for the books they've written. Stephen King, just the sheer volume of stuff he's written, and the fact that I've talked about this before, the fact that the first finished copy of Carrie went into Stephen King's trash because he thought it was crap. And it was his wife, Tabitha, which pulled it out and said, "You've got something here. You really need to rethink this." And so, I look at those authors and kind of where they started and they got to the heights they did. Stephen King took years of building before he got to the heights he did. C.S. Lewis was very unknown for a very long time, and then his books started coming to light. Ernst Klein, lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Ready Player One is lightning in a bottle. He was a no one who came out of nowhere.
Well, I mean,
Um,
you think about it, like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, who were friends, were both professors. They were both
yeah,
linguists,
no. I
and
know, but
they didn't they didn't they didn't start writing or releasing material until they were old.
yeah. No. The point I'm getting to is these are authors I've held up on a pedestal who've gone through very different journeys. Stephen King, from literally writing for horror magazines and Playboy, stories for there till the I mean, whether you like Stephen King or not, he's immensely famous,
Yeah,
and he's got
he's
a
prolific
huge
as
number of
hell.
fans.
Yeah, he's
He's a
released
great
a
war. He's a great character builder.
yeah.
C.S. Lewis was a very good world builder. But they were very different paths to get there. Stephen King started very young, and he grew his fame. As you said, C.S. Lewis started old
Yeah.
and grew his fame. Ernst Klein hit lightning in a bottle. Orson Scott Card hit a lot of lightning in a bottle too, because he became very popular very quickly. And these are very different paths that these authors took. And so for me as an author, it was very hard for me to envision that I could ever do what they did. So I think that's the point you were getting to.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's I put these people
Could
on
I
a
really
pedestal,
do? Yes. Yeah.
and it's like, well, anything I write's not going to be that good. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. It 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 doesn't matter. Everybody everybody has something to say.
Mm,
Everybody.
I'll debate you
Everybody
on that
has
one. I'll debate you
everybody
on that one.
has
I think there are people out there that really don't have anything to say, but they open their mouth anyway.
everybody has something to say. Everybody can do this. Everyone can do this. Is it going to be, is this book as good as Lord of the Rings? Fuck no.
I don't think everybody can do this. I disagree with that. I do not think that
Okay,
everybody could
every
put,
relatively intelligent person can do this.
yeah, I don't think everybody could put their ideas on paper and actually make it legible or readable to get out to the general masses. I do not think everybody has this in them. I think that
No, I
being
disagree. I
able,
think I think well, maybe not everybody, but I
thank
think
you.
most people can do this. They just need the idea. And sometimes that's hard.
Well, because I think there's people out there that can never put those ideas together. And that's where I say not everybody can do it. They might have an idea, but they don't have any way how to put it together. And so it may not be something they could ever do themselves. And then you have, I'm sorry, but you've got people out there that they have no idea in their brain pan at all. They
Yeah.
just don't. They are mouth breathers. And I can sit here and think of two people in close proximity to me where I live that are just mouth breathers. Um, um, you know, every bad thought to them. I just don't like them. But I think there are people that they do not have an active, because one of the things this takes a good imagination. You have to be able to imagine a world. You can't just build a book on just characters and not be able to build the world around it. And I don't know that everybody has that in them. I'm not saying it's a great thing. Like I said, I put those authors up on a pedestal. But I am able to do what they did, and that's build a world and build characters within that world and make those characters interesting. You've done this with Firesign. Um, I think I think you actually belittle it by saying everybody can do it. I don't think everybody can. I don't think everybody has the talent for this. Um, but I think the people that do have an idea in their head, I think there's a path to get there. I think there's a
Yes,
very
yeah,
definitive path to get there,
yeah.
and they may need
And
help.
there's not the gatekeeping that existed for, the last 150 years of publishing is not there anymore.
Correct.
You
That
you don't
that
you
part
don't
of it is correct.
yeah, you don't have to get a literary agent stuff. I published this myself. It cost me nothing but time.
Right. The indie market has grown quite a bit, and Amazon's not the only one. Amazon is just really kind of the easiest one
Yeah.
that make the path to becoming an indie writer a lot simpler, and it's allowed a lot of indie writers. Now, there are literally hundreds of thousands of indie writers out there. The hard part of being an indie writer is you don't have the marketing that a publishing company does. You can do your marketing. I do it all the time. But the marketing power of a publishing house is one of the most difficult things about being an indie writer because you don't have it. You have the outlets for it, the venues are there, but it's difficult. It's insanely hard not only to become an indie writer and publish your book, but to make people stop and notice that your book is out there in the first place. That's the hard part about this. Um, to me, that's kind of that's the hardest part of post publishing is literally putting yourself out there all the time because I put myself out there every single day with posts for my book, my sequel, podcast. I have a author support group that I post on every day, and that's difficult. It's very difficult to keep those ideas going constantly, and that's kind of where the hardest is. But we devolved from that. You answered the question I had on that. Um, I had this myself, and so I'll ask you: was there a moment or moments where you almost said, "I'm not doing this," and you put it aside, that you almost didn't finish, or did you
No.
always power forward? You
Well,
never had
okay.
any moment.
When I actually started writing it, after it's like, well, Stephen did one, and Geoffrey did one, and Mike did one. You know what? I think I can do this. After I reached that point, no. Was there a point where I was like, I can't look at this right now? I'll come back to this in a couple of days. But I wasn't ever going to stop. I needed to get this out of my head.
Hmm.
I've got two more ideas for books that aren't even fantasy. One is a science fiction piece, and the other is a piece about the life of a record store. I've already got started writing the ideas down.
Hmm.
And I will eventually come back to the world of Firesign because in my idea, it is an Elvish War story. There's going to be other Elvish Wars. Um, so
And
I'll
that's
probably I'll
and
probably do a water sign and an earth sign and a bit an air sign too.
and that's so interesting that you've got these other ideas because I've kind of sat there and thought about it. Um, excuse me. Um, I am 99% certain that the Ominous series is going to go 6 books. I'm fairly certain of that. I'm like I said, 99% certain. But I've sat there and thought about it, and I've thought about when I'm done with where I want to go in book 6. Will I
What are
ever
you going to
write
do
it?
next?
Yeah, well, will I do anything next? I've kind of sat there and thought about it, and I don't know that I'll ever write again because this is the story I've always wanted to tell. Will I ever write again? I don't know. Maybe. I had no thought in my head that I was going to write short stories from this book, and I had these 6 books of mine, and then suddenly the idea for these short stories came about, and so I wrote short stories. And the more I talk about it and the more I think about it, maybe there's more, but I don't know. I don't know. I just find it interesting that you've got two completely different ideas besides this book
Mhm.
that you're thinking about writing because I just don't know that I can do that. I
I
don't
want
know
to,
that I
yeah,
have it in me.
I want to do those before I tackle this world again
Hmm.
because I know that, as I said, this is one valley.
Hmm.
There's other shit going on the other side of those mountains to the north. That's the story I actually kind of wanted to get to after I told this. But I need to I need to clear my head out for that. I need to talk about capital ships fighting in the stars. Which is what's probably going to actually the record store is probably next because I've had this idea for a while. I originally wrote like a treatise for a play for this, and it was basically the life of it was a record store, and it was a bookstore, and then it was a record store. It's probably going to be a record slash used books, a used record slash used bookstore, and it's going to tell the life of the store and the generations of people that are in it.
That's cool.
And it's going to go from 1985 probably to about 2010.
So I know what this feels like, and I've talked to others, and so I will ask you, now that it's published, how does it feel with it being live?
Well, the fact that I can misprinted the title is kind of a pain in my ass. Hopefully by the time you guys pick it up, it's been retitled. But if not, those early ones will be rare because they say Chronicle instead of Chronicle. um, it feels I feel a little elated, but I'm also kind of charged now because I want to start. I think the record store is going to be next. I really do. I don't even know what the title is yet. Well, it was the same with this book. Originally, it was just called the Elvish War, and I was like, there's going to be more than one Elvish War, so I can't just call them all the Elvish War. So, oh, and that was another thing in the book that I don't want them to be Elvin. I want them to be Elvish. I don't want them to be Dwarven or Orcish, Orcish, or I want them to all be Ish. So that was really important to me. I don't know why.
Hey, I'm going to reel you back because you never answered my question.
I'm sorry.
You said elated. The okay. So when my first book was live, it was surreal. It was surreal to me.
It's a little weird. It is a little weird.
What was in my head and the story I wanted to get out to the world was finally out there. It's the exact same moment when I got my author's proof, the very first physical copy of the book that is in a frame in my office right now. It was hard to describe because it was real. It was tangible for the first time ever. What I created was real. It didn't really feel real until that moment. At that moment, when it was live to the world, now it was real. And it was one of the proudest moments of my life. For me, this was a lifelong dream. I'd been wanting to be a writer since I was in the first grade. So this was literally a lifelong dream for me. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at here. As your book is live now, the world has it. For better or for worse, it's out there.
Yes.
How does that feel to you to be a published writer? You are now a published author.
That's true. That's true. I'm now a published author. It's well, like I said, I'm a little elated. But mostly I want to get on to the next story.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, this one's out of my head now. I can get into that. And again, it's probably going to be the record story because right now that's what's popping in my brain. So yeah, it is cool to be a published writer. It just happened though, too. I still think the shoe hasn't dropped yet. Part of the fact that I fucked up the title when I was typing it up.
I stared at my Amazon page for a very long time and stared at
every time I look at it, it makes me mad.
And hit refresh a lot. I hit refresh for that, to see that first sale, to see that first review. Um, and that's a hard thing about writing too, because one of the things about being an indie author, to break through the algorithm, you have to have reviews.
Yeah.
And for Amazon to really even pay attention to you, you have to have 20 reviews specifically before it'll start to take notice in the algorithm. And getting people to review your book is hard. Not that they don't like it. Even the people that absolutely love your book, it's just not in our nature to go do reviews like that. It's just not. And so I kind of feel sometimes like I'm always hawking that, please go leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps our podcast, and look for that information that we may be giving out, things like that.
Hey,
It's people, it's
like,
not,
subscribe, and follow.
it's not natural for people to
No.
go give reviews. And so that's why it's hard. And I feel like I'm hawking that all the time, hey, if you love the book, please go give a review. Because it really does help. It helps authors. It helps podcasts. It helps authors. Everything that goes into that.
Yes.
It's massive. Something free you can do for somebody that has a work of a piece of entertainment that is out there live for the world. You have no idea how much that helps them giving your review and the next person that gives that review, and turning around and telling somebody else, hey, you need to hear this, or you need to read this, or you need to see this. That word of mouth is so powerful. So powerful. Um, One last question.
Okay.
Uh, what do you hope people take away after reading it?
Well, again, the original idea was I wanted to do something that was a fun fantasy story that got you involved, but, didn't require college level courses to understand. So it's a fun, fast fantasy story. It's not meant to be too long. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's meant to be enjoyable. Yeah, yes, you get attached to some of the characters. You're joyous in their triumphs and sad in their defeats. But mostly it's for people to enjoy, to to have fun with. And that's what I hope. I hope they read it and go, "Hey, this is a fun fantasy novel. This is a fun adventure." Because that was my original idea. I want to make a fun adventure.
Awesome. So I'll kind of close with a couple of things. Um, Firesign and Elvish War Chronicle is out on Amazon now.
Yes.
The link is on our Facebook page. Zig, you have no idea of this, but at 8 o'clock p.m. while we were reporting this, I advertised for you on Nerdery Facebook page.
Hey, look at that.
I
Is
had
that
it
what all
scheduled.
that beeping was?
I had it scheduled to go out at 8 o'clock. Yep.
Nice.
So it's out there. I posted the first comment. It does have the link to his Amazon page. So check out the Nerdery Murdery Facebook group or Facebook page. There is a post in there about this. It has the cover for his book, and there is a link to Amazon if you'd like to check it out.
Oh
It
yeah,
is
yeah.
for sale
And
now.
Geoffrey made the cover. Thank you, Geoffrey.
Oh, you're very welcome.
He was like, you want me to work on a cover?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Well, what do you want it to be?" "I want it to be the city with the dancers and the flowers and the fire and boom, it's right behind me. Look at that. Look at that shit. Look at that shit. Jeffrey's got the top of it.
I do. I have the top. He has the bottom. I'm top. You're
Thank you,
bottom.
sir.
That's terrible. Um, so do go check it out. Please check it out. Comment on our Facebook page. Comment that give him some congratulations. Give him some love out there. I hope that this episode will be live tonight. I'm going to work on it here in just a few minutes and try to get it out. I'm doing it myself without our producer Will, so it may just be crash and burn, or it might crash and burn.
That's fine. That's
But
fine.
but go check it out. Please do check it out. Support Zig, and if you
Thank you.
read it, please leave a review.
Yeah.
But go out there and step into the world he built. There's a lot. There's a lot. But I think you'll enjoy it.
There's a lot of, well, it's a fantasy novel. You got to have a lot.
Yes,
It's
and you do so. So, check it out. And I'll say it again. If you do check it out, please, 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 please leave a review. It'll really help them out. So, Zig, thank you for taking your time tonight with this and
Oh, thank
being
you.
the subject of the nerdery. I got to do a nerdery tonight, and you were
Yes,
the
you
subject of
did.
it. Your book was. Just as a reminder, everybody, Sunday we're back to our regularly scheduled nerdery and murdery.
And murdering.
So we'll be back to the murdery side of the house, but the nerdery as well. We got a whole new show coming out, so make sure to check us out. But thanks for hanging with us tonight. Hope you enjoy it. Go enjoy the book, Firesign and Elvish War Chronicle. And congratulations again, Zig. Real proud of you. Real happy for
Thank you, sir.
With that, I have been Geoffrey with your nerdery tonight. There's no murdery, and Zig has been our authory tonight. So happy he was here. Ziggy was my guestery on the nerdery side of the house.
That's so fucking weird.
A little surreal. After 5 years, he was my guest on the nerdery side of the house that I so rarely
Those are some
do.
great questions. I'm just sorry I answered them so shittily.
Yeah, you did fine. You did fine. I just wanted kind of to spotlight you and highlight you with that. So,
Well, thanks, sir.
So, kids, thanks again for joining us. Join us again Sunday for a new episode. But with that, I have been Geoffrey with your nerdery, and with that,
I have been Zig with your guestery.
Guestery. Cue the music.